Hey there, I'm Jess Byrnes. Welcome to the Jess Byrnes Show. This is where ambition meets alignment. I'm a VA coach, business strategist, and freedom mentor, and I help service-based women unleash their power, scale beyond booked out, and step into their CEO era. Expect real talk, practical strategies, and inspiring conversations with women who've built businesses on their terms. If you're ready to create more freedom, more income, and more impact, this is the space for you.
Hello, my name is Jess Byrnes. I am the owner of Jessica Co, and I am a coach specifically for freelancers, VAs, and online consultants looking to start or scale their online business. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit around compliance and rates and share a little bit around like what not to panic on, right? Part of this has come because I see this a lot in different Facebook groups. I have done some deep diving into this space for myself and my own business and my requirements. And it's really not about panic. This is about getting some clarity and giving some information. So this is general education based on publicly available info and my experience that I have found over the last few weeks and months and years as being a virtual assistant. It's not legal or tax advice, and everyone's situation is different. So my goal is to explain how this system works as I see it, not to be taken as legal or tax advice. Obviously, go and speak to a lawyer or an accountant, which I have a few great ones in my corner if you need a recommendation, but obviously need to give that disclaimer. So now that all that's boring housekeeping stuff is out of the way. So for those of you that don't know me, Jess Byrnes, started my VA business in 2017, took it full time in 2019, and have loved it ever since. I've had a few different roles. I've had a few different hats. I've played in a few different spaces, but the crux of it is I've been around for a while. I've been a VA, OBM, marketing consultant, business coach, advisor, consultant, you name it, I've done it. And I've been reviewing my compliance. One of my VAs doing my 6-figure freedom program, she constantly reminds me around compliance, and her business has been part of an audit over the last few weeks, which really triggered my, okay, well, what's next for us? What does hiring look like for us? What does compliance look like for us? And so then I just started going down a bit of a rabbit hole. Now, normally I go to my accountant, get all this information, but I thought it would be really valuable to be able to share this with you with some links and some information that you can go and have a look yourself. Like I said, not my circus, not my monkeys as far as legal and tax advice. But I want to share with you what I've found. So there's also a lot of confusion in a lot of groups around what we can and can't do. And there is a little bit of gray area depending on the setup with your client. But the biggest thing I saw the other day is that it's illegal to just do an hourly rate, which it's not. It's not the hourly rate that is the challenge. It becomes the structure of how you are performing and that hourly rate. So what the key challenge is here is around the practice in which you implement the hourly rates for your client. A big part of this is super, whether you're entitled to super or not. So it's not just about a title or an ABN. If your contract is just to get paid for labor, essentially, you may be treated as employee for super purposes only. So you would need to go and ask your accountant about that. With this client, would this apply, right? It's really important that you dive into this and understand, and it's worth understanding of how this plays out and having those conversations. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. The client often doesn't know either. But in some cases, this is a very real option for you to possibly need to consider. It can be very overwhelming. I know for me, when I first heard it, and from my accountant, I was like, my gosh, why does no one tell you this stuff? Why isn't it taught somewhere in a business course? And maybe it is now. It's been a hot minute since I've done a diploma and a certificate for, but it's very, very normal to feel overwhelmed with the information and not really be sure, which is why it's important to hire these experts to be in your corner. And the reason I will always have a great accountant, a great lawyer, great support, business coach, all the things, because I don't know everything. Learning more about it means that I can understand it, but I don't have to be the sole person who carries that load, if that makes sense. So it's really about stepping into that next level of business, and especially if you're looking at hiring people and subcontractors and how that works, it's definitely worth a conversation and worth understanding with your accountant and a legal professional. So the hard thing is that there's no one correct answer or one right answer for everyone, but we need to look at individual clients, how it works, clarifying with the client, and getting this information often up front, because it can change the dynamics of the arrangement. So speaking to the accountant can clear this up and give you some very, very clear guidelines. And it may even give you a bit of a time frame. Like maybe you can work under one structure for a period of time, and as you grow and evolve and the role changes, maybe you do need to move into a different structure. Like there's so many options and so many variables, which is where we need to be really careful and make sure we're getting the right advice from the right people. So the spaces that I've been playing in and I've been looking at and getting information from are the Australian Tax Office and the Fair Work Ombudsman. So both of those spaces have official sources. They're not just opinions, it's official information. And they've got very clear tools and plain English guides that will spell it out, that say this is what's acceptable and this isn't. Things like with the Fair Work Ombudsman is where I came up against a few interesting boundaries, I guess, or a few different pieces of information around what is taken into consideration when working out hourly rate versus are you a casual employee? Because that's ultimately what we're trying to work out. So the key thing that I found is around what they call sham contracting. Some people do this intentionally to get around or try to get around tax and different obligations. Some people do it because they saw someone else do it and have no idea what the implications are, which is why it's really important for us as business owners to be across this and what it means to us. So sham contracting is when a business treats or presents a worker as a contractor when in actual fact the relationship is employment. Basically on the Fair Work website, just because someone gives you the title of a contractor doesn't mean that you are a contractor, which is what I found really interesting. So just because you frame yourself as that, you can have legal contracts, you can have everything in place and they can override it. The law actually looks at how the work operates, and this, which is where I was talking about the structure of the relationship. So when this comes into play, sham contracting looks at things, and the regulators come in and they look at certain areas such as how much control the business has, how integrated the worker is into the business, whether the worker is completely financially dependent on this business or not. whether they are paid for time worked or results, right? Whether the worker can delegate or subcontract what they're doing, and whether the arrangement is ongoing and in a regular capacity. So if you, as the contractor, if you have an ABN, yes, you issue invoices, you call yourself a contractor, there's an agreement there's a written agreement, a written arrangement. If you look like an employee and it's employment, the law will treat you as an employee and classify you as being employed by that business, which obviously can have quite serious tax implications, super implications, and there are fines and things in place. So the really interesting thing too is that you don't have to have ill intent to be charged with sham contracting. Like, you know, even if you don't know about this or the employers don't know about this, then it doesn't matter. They don't take that into consideration at all. So the idea of stopping sham contracting is to stop people from avoiding paying super, avoiding leave entitlements, avoiding minimum wages, and then shifting the risk onto us as workers rather than owning the risk as business owners. So if the business controls the time and the work, you're an employee. If the business buys a result, then you're a contractor. And this is why it's really, really powerful to offer your services in potential packages. So for me, social media, X amount of posts gives you this for this much money. They don't have a say in how I create the content, when I do the work. You know, I can obviously outsource it to my team, all of those fun things. Now, if someone said to me, right, we want you to come and do social media for us, but you are to attend our office between 8 and 12 every Wednesday, and you are to action it, and you're to do it with the computer that we give you, the phone that we give you, and we'll give you all of our logins, so you do it all on on our terms, basically. You're an employee. You're a casual employee, and they are bound to the laws around that. So yeah, basically, in some cases, we would consider ourselves as contractors, but you might actually be considered employment, casual employment. And this is why it really matters to ask the right questions, speak to the right people, talk to the advisors that are play in this space all day, every day, and get the legal requirement and the legal information to be able to deliver correctly and give the information appropriately, because the fines are very significant, very, very significant. So my advice, and I'll share a couple of my contacts with you around who I work with and who I connect with. I would absolutely get your contracts reviewed. Chris Ryan Legal is my go-to contract lawyer. He's phenomenal. I also have Liam Schofield, who's a conveyancer, but he also has a legal. They've got a full team at their law firm, a large law firm, so they charge a little bit more. Chris is very reasonably priced, but a couple of options there. And then I've got a number of accountants that I could refer you to and have a chat to around this, because the results could be quite damaging if we don't get it right. So bit more information and value today rather than sharing my experiences, but this was just something that was too important not to share. I would love for you to invite someone into the group that you might know that would find this extremely helpful and get more information out of this. I will pop the details in the comments around the contacts, and we will take it from there. All right, ladies, have a lovely day. I'll speak to you very soon.